Speak of the devil. Somebody better call a priest to exorcise the swear words from our mouths and minds in this episode of Bewitched Banter. You have been warned. Content is not suitable for all listeners. Welcome. You're listening to Bewitched Banter.
I'm Krista, and I believe that people are inherently shitty.
And I'm Amy, and I tend to believe that people are naturally good.
But ironically, I'm a super believer in the supernatural and all things spiritual.
And I'm a total skeptic.
We're best friends, and in this podcast, we're seeking to explore and understand each other's perspectives, with deep dives into the spooky, the spiritual, the magical, and the mystical.
And some straight up spoofs. And today, we will be covering a satanic sex-crazed rocketeer and a satanic murder.
All right, let's get spiritual.
Let's get into some demonic stories today. Cheers!
No thanks on anything dark following me home, or anywhere for that matter.
Today we are covering the second portion of our devil episode. We will be doing a two-part, just to clue in everyone if you haven't heard this yet, but history on Tuesday, and we're following it up today with two stories. I'm going to tell the first story I can't wait to get into, and then Krista is going to round it out with her story as well. Krista did a great job on Tuesday if you haven't heard it yet. The devil's in the details. We go into the history of pretty much like the perception of what people thought the devil was throughout mankind.
Mostly again with a Catholic Christian lens, but do touch on some other beliefs as well.
And I have no idea Krista's story, so I can't really talk for you what you'll be covering, but my story, and I kind of teased this on the other day.
What you got?
My story, again, I said this the other day, but it's going to involve the devil, explosions, rockets, sex, and magic. So buckle up. It's going to be a good one.
All of the above besides the devil, please.
When I started my research, so I will be covering John Whiteside Parsons. He's often referred to as Jack Parsons.
Okay. See, the name's sounding familiar, but honestly, I can't even remember at all. So I'm super excited for you to remind me what the hell.
If you know this story,
POS
I would
did.
be honestly super surprised.
Okay, let me hear it.
Because whenever I start researching for a topic, I just put in Google like the most random combination of things, like devil worshiper, Satan, person, cult.
FCC is like, this bitch is researching again tonight.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, what can I randomly land on that's going to be weird? And so I landed on this dude, and I was like, no way. And I knew it was going to be good because the following headlines popped up.
Oh, God.
He blew himself up, or did he? Question mark.
Oh.
Life as a Satanist and propelled Rocketeer. The cultist Rocketeer of the real-life Suicide Squad.
Whoa.
This sex-crazed cultist was the father of modern rocketry. Am I saying that right?
Rocketry. Oh my God.
Rocketry.
Rocketry. There you go.
I was like, hell yeah, I am already like, I need to know now.
Okay.
Let's start at the very beginning before I jump into all the good stuff. So Jack was born in Los Angeles on October 2nd, 1914.
3 days before my birthday.
Oh, really?
Obviously not
So he's a
1919.
Libra?
Yep.
He was very wealthy when he was growing up. His parents owned an orange grove in Pasadena. So the area he grew up in was called Millionaire Mile because it was full of like big mansions.
Okay.
So he's coming from a lot of money. As a child, he loved science fiction, and this is what led him to being interested in rocketry, which is obviously a word I've never had to use in my life. And I could read it in my head, but then when it comes time to say it out loud, I'm like,
Because we are rocket scientists. Absolutely.
yes, exactly. But this is basically the branch of science that obviously deals with rockets and rocket propulsion. I've never had to use that. Why would that word come up in my lifetime? Like, why would I be talking about the study of rockets? His love of science fiction caused him to dream about being the first person to invent a rocket. As a teenager, he would shoot off homemade rockets in his backyard. And he shot off so many rockets in his upscale neighborhood that they said his backyard was actually full of craters from the explosions he had created.
You know, that reminds me of, what's it called? The Toy Story kid.
Not Andy. Sid, yes.
The scary-ass brother next door with, like, the creepy dolls, and you know that motherfucker was shooting off rockets, too.
Yeah. So he's an early offshoot of Sid.
Maybe that's where they got their inspo from, for that character.
And he's basically every teacher's worst nightmare, talking from experience, and he would have been a nightmare to have as a kid.
Oh, God.
I'm sure he caused his parents countless sleepless nights.
Oh, poor parents and teachers.
I mean, let's start from the top. I just said he was creating explosives in his own yard, so imagine that.
Yeah.
And then his mom soon found out that as a teenager, he would spend his evenings trying to contact the devil. He was equally fascinated with the devil and black magic. So he had, like, a love of, like, if you're on a dating profile, swipe left if you love the devil and rockets. Like, you're a perfect match for this dude.
No thanks. Swipe, no, left's a hell no.
Oh, I meant right.
Swipe right is a let's fuck.
Yeah, so obviously married woman here and has not been on a dating app for several years.
And I'm just relearning, so I think I got that right. Yes, left is nah. Right is...
Okay, so you don't want to swipe right.
Yeah,
okay.
You want to swipe right on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Got you.
For this reason, like, I mean, imagine your son is up in the bedroom trying to talk to the devil. There's explosions going off in your backyard.
I'll lose my damn mind. No.
Yeah, and the mom was like, what the hell do I do with this asshole child? That's what I'm going to call it. I mean, as a teacher, sometimes I had kids, and I was like, they're hopeless. I don't know what you do with them. There's just certain kids you're like, you can't talk sense into.
Sucks for you, parents. Here you go.
Again, they're very wealthy, so they're like, okay, let's send him to a military boarding school.
Damn, you know. Side note, did I ever tell you about my ex-boyfriend in 8th grade? My very first boyfriend in middle school, he was such a bad kid that he got sent away to a military-type boarding school in Mexico called Casa by the Sea. Yeah.
What did he do?
He was, let's just say, a troubled boy, young man. He was involved in theft, I believe, with teachers' wallets and money. I may or may not have sold weed. Don't know.
So your first love?
It was. I thought it was anyway. Yeah. I was thinking about him recently, actually. Weird.
You're like, what is that bad boy up to?
Yeah, girl. You know I was thinking about that. No, needless to say, Dad was not happy, and because of said boyfriend, punched a hole in my bedroom wall.
In 8th grade?
He caught me talking, like I was in my closet, like on the corded phone back in the day.
You're like, I'm into the bad boys. I'm in middle school.
I was. Surprise, surprise. Not really. Oh, he picked me up in his mom's car. Kid you not. I was 12 years old because I had a late birthday. 12 years old. He stole his mom's car in the middle of the night and picked me up. And
that is so dangerous.
And we went joyriding around my town.
Your parents probably lost their shit when they heard that.
Oh my God. They never knew that story. Thank God. Well, they probably do now. But anyway, the military boarding school reminded me. What the hell was I thinking?
Do you know what he's doing now?
Well, glad you asked. I'm pretty sure he went to prison.
Not surprised.
In recent life.
What is that noise?
I think your house clicked.
Weird.
Settled.
Oh, there's a ghost in my house.
It's the devil. He's here.
The wall is cracking. But it literally did sound like the wall was cracking.
Devil.
It's the devil getting pissed off because we told his history. You showed them my true colors. Back to, okay, so they're sending off little Satan. Off to a boarding school, right? He didn't last long there because he started to blow up toilets. So they're like, nope, you aren't going to school here. We're sending your ass home. This guy obviously is very super smart, though.
How old was he, more or less, when they sent him off?
I think he was like a teenager.
Okay.
Yeah. Over all this, even though he still graduated high school, he did attend Stanford. So he's very smart.
Okay.
And it was during the Great Depression. His dad did pass away, and so for that reason, they no longer could afford it. Aww. So he did have to drop out.
Okay.
Keep that in mind when I'm telling this story. Everything he accomplished, because he does accomplish a lot, he only did this with a high school degree. So he's really, really intelligent, and that probably part of the reason why he was acting out.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's always that line of madness and ingenuity and smartness, as they say, and sometimes that evil line is right in the middle that divides the two.
With only a high school degree, Jack and his a friend he had named Ed, they went to the California Institute of Technology and was able to like coerce a third person to join them. It was a graduate student named Frank Molina. And the three of them created what people referred to as the Suicide Squad.
Okay, so I didn't realize it was a real thing. I only knew the comic and movie.
Yeah, and they refer to them as the Suicide Squad because they would actually, this group of three guys, they eventually got a team of other college students to help them, but they started to develop experiments to build rockets. And the reason why they were calling them the Suicide Squad, because what they were doing, these experiments were so dangerous, like they could easily kill themselves in a second.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because they're like...
Yeah.
I mean, you have to create explosives.
No thanks. No thank you.
The Suicide Squad created the Guggenheim Aeronautical Laboratory Rocket Research Group, which is a mouthful. Mm-hmm. I was like, you couldn't think of a shorter name. This was during a time when most of society was like, they were like fascinated and obsessed with aviation, but the idea of creating a rocket seemed like outlandish and something like only an idiot would say they could do, basically. And this says it best. I found in the article called Jack Parsons and the Curious Tale of Rocketry in the 1930s by George Pendle. He said the following, quote, even as late as 1941, one rocketry enthusiast was mocked in Congress as a crackpot with mental delusions that we can travel to the moon, at which the entire House of Representatives roared with laughter. Such mockery was unsurprising.
Well, shame on y'all bitches. 30 years later, taking your ass to the moon.
Yeah. I mean, but you have to put yourself in that time. If someone was telling you we're going to go to space, wouldn't you kind of look at them like they were kind of crazy?
Probably. I don't know. I guess I'd have to live in the time, but yeah, in that context, yeah.
I think it's easy sometimes to look back at the past and be like, oh, they were stupid. Jack Parsons was able to do the undoable, and he invented a new type of fuel. And this is probably going to go over my head, your head, and everyone else's heads listening, but I'm going to say it anyway. It was the first castable, case-bonded composite propellant.
Excellent work pronouncing that, because, wow.
Yes, and it's still the fuel that is used in the space shuttles that they launch off today.
Oh, wow. So they really created something.
Yes. The Suicide Squad was able to create the first successful rocket and fuel, so... huge deal, right?
Wow, that is.
And we're going to definitely get into why we don't know this name. It's really interesting. This led to the government funding Parson and the Suicide Squad. So they're giving them money.
Okay.
And with this, they started the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which was the first institution for space exploration.
Cool. So pre-NASA, obviously.
Well... my next sentence. So this lab soon became the foundation of NASA.
Whoa.
Without him...
that's kind of cool.
No, this is all really cool. So without him, America wouldn't have been the first country to land on the moon. All thanks to Jack Parsons and the Suicide Squad.
So like I said, shame on you assholes in Congress for laughing.
There's other reasons they should laugh at him. And I'm definitely going to get into it.
Okay, all right.
Parson is described as one of America's greatest space pioneers. He was able to create a science that the government, like I said, laughed at him for. He was a scientist, but also surprisingly believed in magic and the paranormal. He has a legacy for building the groundwork of NASA, like I said, but his reputation was ruined because he was a Satanist and a sex cult member. This is where it all takes a dark turn.
Okay. Do we know, I know you mentioned in his childhood that he was interested in Satan, but do we know why? Or did he just...
I think some of it came from science fiction.
Oh, right, yes.
He had a love of science fiction, but I also think his whole life, it said he just had this obsession with dark magic, the devil, anything like that. From the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, he became rich as fuck.
Yeah, I bet.
And was able to buy a mansion in Pasadena, which he nicknamed the Parsonage. In the 1930s, he started attending a meeting of the Ordo Templi Orientis Society in Los Angeles. This group was often referred to as the OTO legacy for short, which I'm obviously going to use.
OTF all day. Orange stripping it.
Yeah. Oh, do you not know OTF was a magical sex cult?
Guess I'm in it.
So he soon became the Antichrist leader of the OTO Satanic black magic sex cult. And I don't know why, but I had to add these silly puns. I don't know why. Don't ask me.
Let's hear it. Oh my God.
What do you call the leader of a satanic cult?
What?
A devil's advocate.
Which is a bar in Tempe that we used to go to right across from Tempe Improv.
Yes.
Yes, that was a college haunting ground.
I don't know if Jack ever said this. I joined a satanic cult the other day just for the hell of it.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's the end of me being corny.
Please, I want more.
I kept looking. I was like, I gotta stop. Gotta get to the research. Gotta get this done.
Oh my God. But next time, please, by all means, enlighten me.
I love corny puns. Hence the beginning of our episode, obviously. In the New York Post article that was written about him by Johnny Oleskinsky, he said, quote, by day, he built rockets for the government. By night, he emerged from a coffin to perform sex magic with his followers. So that guy has like a crazy life. Like,
no shit.
Yeah, I'm like, I just go to the office 9 to 5, then I come home and I hope to like have a nice dinner and enjoy a few hours off. And he's like building rockets and having sex by coffins, like quite the lifestyle right there.
No shit. No thanks, I'll buy the coffins. I'm good.
The OTO Society was founded by Aleister Crowley. Do you know who that is?
Okay, I know this name, but give me more.
Okay. Aleister Crowley was referred to some as the wickedest man on earth, or they also nicknamed him the Great Beast 666. Crowley, he's a really fascinating guy, and that would be a cool thing to dive into more. I'm going to give just the highlight. Crowley was raised by very religious parents. As a child, was raised to... Not raised, he was forced basically to he had to read the Bible every day.
Ooh.
Even though he didn't want to.
Tough break, Aleister, my bad.
And he did attend Cambridge, and this is where they declared he was a genius. He was very intelligent. He rebelled against his upbringing, and he was known for rejecting any teaching from the Bible, and he favored secularism.
Okay.
And so secularism, just really quick, it's a belief system that rejects religion, or the belief that religion should not be part of the affairs of the state or part of the public education.
Totally agree. Separation of church and state should, yes. Unfortunately, we're at a crossroads right now back to women's rights. That way, I won't get into that right now, but yeah, it's unfortunately not separate. And I don't know if it ever really has been in our government.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think people are too biased, and it's just ingrained in who they are. Crowley, for this reason, he favored secularism, right? But people saw him as being demonic. And he actually embraced this and referred to himself as the beast. And he became known for summoning demons to come to his aid. And the belief was that they could achieve their greatest desires with the demons. And Crowley is the one who organized the OTO Society that Jack's attending.
Okay, got it.
So you're caught up on the story.
Got it.
The OTO Society has been compared to The Secret. Do you know The Secret?
Yes. Oh, yes. What the guy's name? He was an awful cult leader.
So the OTO Society has been compared to The Secret, which we probably, I'm sure, I remember in college, I didn't know what it was. I know now it's like seen more as a cult, but I remember somehow I came across it and people were like, it's great, you gotta look into it.
Yeah, I remember that shit too.
And I remember watching, it was like a YouTube video, and I think I got 5 minutes in, I was like, no, not
for
for
me. Yeah, I'm surprised you lasted that long knowing you, but...
I was like, not for me. This is a little culty, a little woo-woo, not my thing.
Yeah, it was... it was... And that guy's a piece of shit too, so... Basically,
The Secret, for people who don't know, it's about like the laws of attraction. Like manifesting, if you believe something will happen, it will happen. And the OTO Society is very closely aligned to that when you look at their beliefs. And their belief system is called Thelema, which was created by Crowley, right?
Okay.
And it was basically the belief that you can manifest things to happen. This could happen through magic, astrology, tarot card readings.
Hey.
And actually, I wanted to bring this up because I know you're a big tarot card girl. Crowley actually created his own deck of tarot cards.
That's badass.
Yeah,
actually.
but he's not. I don't think he's a good guy. But
badass of like your own.
He didn't create the art. He created this, and he hired an artist to make it.
Then F off.
The OTO Society was known for practicing sex magic, which is basically what it sounds like. They believe that the intense feeling that someone experiences during an orgasm could open the gates to the universe.
Which, frankly, I never felt more close to God whenever I orgasm.
Oh, God.
I'm serious.
I was watching a documentary on this, and Corey walks in, my husband, he goes, I came and I saw the universe. OTO, they believe during the small window of time when someone orgasms, that they could perform a magic spell during this time.
Okay, no. That, no.
They would focus on a single intention while having sex, and they believe that if their intention could come true through the act of having sex and opening themselves up to another universe. Again, the laws of attraction, basically they are manifesting their wants during sex. I personally think this was just made by a bunch of horny people who are out to get laid.
Horny men, clarify.
Yes. And this part is weird. So the OTO Society would host what would they call Gnostic Mass, which was basically a weird version of Catholic Mass. During the Mass, on stage, they would have a coffin where the group's leader would sit in it, right?
No.
The coffin was surrounded by candles. Remember, it's a satanic group, too. Mm-hmm. And it sat by an altar that had hieroglyphics on it.
Okay.
They would read poetry during their Mass, and they would draw swords, kiss women's breasts. They would drink wine. Supposedly, this part is freaking disgusting. Consume cakes that were made from menstrual blood.
Oh, God. We might need to pause this because I might actually throw up on air. I might.
Okay, that's the worst of it, guys.
Okay. Oh.
I told you this is a wild ride, this story.
And you know I'm squeamish. She did that to me on purpose. Oh, my God. I'm so grossed out.
Okay, can I move on?
Yes.
Okay.
Please do.
Earlier, I mentioned that Jack, right, had bought a mansion they called the Parsonage. Jack eventually left the OTO group, or I should society is what I should call it, to create his own society, and he would host orgies at his mansion in hopes of manifesting a better life. He still used a lot of the same practices from the OTO group, though. So he's kind of like, but he wants to create his own group at this point.
Sure.
So he is married at this point, right? And his wife was like, hell no.
Good for her.
I am not about this life. And she left him. She's like, hell no.
Good for her.
He then, this is messed up, decided to hook up with his ex-wife's sister, Sarah Hollister. And I guess Sarah loved getting around and loved being part of the orgy culture.
Okay.
And she loved to perform her sex magic. So she's all into it, right? And at one of their meetings, Jack and Sarah were hosting, they met Ron L. Hubbard, a science fiction writer.
Oh my God, I was going to say this sounds so Scientology-y.
Yes.
Oh no,
so
it's
let me get into
real
it.
bad, isn't it? Real quick.
He's definitely in the story, which is interesting. I forgot to say at the top, it has to also do with Scientology.
Oh man.
Ron L. Hubbard would join the orgy parties and basically got the whole premise of being able to move up in like said levels in Scientology from Parsons' sex cult.
No fucking shit.
Yes.
Yeah, because, well, you know, I watched the Leah Remini series on debunking Scientology and, again, bringing them to task, which I hope she does someday soon. But yeah, it's all about levels. That's crazy. And then he got it from Parsons.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Which Parsons basically got from Crowley. So it's like a chain of events, right?
Yep.
I'm going to come back to, that's not the last I'm going to mention, old Ron, disgusting Ron.
Ugh.
Parson believed that he could summon a goddess named Babylon. She was basically a goddess that symbolized sexual freedom for women. And he asked his followers to help.
Well, you can get on board with that at least.
Yeah.
I can.
I mean, we all can.
Let me speak for myself on that.
And he asked his followers to help with a project that he would call the Babylon Working. Yes, I like the whole freedom of women, but this is where it gets weird.
Okay, let's hear it. I knew it was going to get bad, so.
I mean, this is all weird. This like whole story is like twists and turns. I'm like, oh my God, story's taking me all over the place. This project was to help him basically knock a woman up that they would call the Scarlet Woman, and she would give birth to a moon child. The moon child, they believe, would be the first child to ever go to outer space. In these rituals, I want to preface, they weren't really giving actual birth to a child. It was like a symbolic ritual where they kind of acted out a woman giving birth. Okay. It's like a fake child.
Thank you. Got it.
And a few years later, Neil Armstrong did take his first few steps on the moon. So do you think their manifesting powers worked? Was that the moon child?
No, I think that his oil that he created, or rocket fuel, helped, certainly, but not the moon child.
It was the moon child.
You think so? Wow. I know you know I'm just laughing with you, but yeah, no, that's a stretch for me.
When Wynne came around and other scientists he worked with at the Jet Propulsion Agency found out Basically, like, this guy is cuckoo. He is a wackadoo. He is in some Satan worshiping cult where they practice sex magic. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine if you found that out about your coworker. You're going to be like, oh, they're weird. They're creepy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be around him. And you're a scientist, but you believe in all this dark magic.
Yeah, that's so bizarre, because usually, scientists are a little more pragmatic. But they also, you know what, though? Science fiction, it blends the two a little bit. But, yeah, that is weird.
Yeah, so obviously he got fired. They were like, let's can his ass. And Ron Hubbard asked Parson to join him in a boating business down in Florida after this. Parson traveled down there, and he gifted Ron $20,000 to start a boating business, like in the hopes that they're eventually going to be partners. So he gives him $20,000, right? Ron Hubbard ends up being like literally the worst thing that's ever happened to Parson in his life. He stabs him in the back by sleeping with his wife.
Oh, no.
Yes, and he did not only create a successful boating business that really flourished, I mean, raked in the money.
Yeah, more of it, sure.
But when it was time to kind of partner up, he was like, nope, not partnering with you, and refused to give Parson his $20,000 back. And Parson went to court. I think he attempted to go to court, but he never really got his money back.
Wait, sorry, Ron Hubbard slept with Parson's
wife?
Ron
Hubbard slept with Jack's wife.
Got it. I mixed it up.
And Jack gifted him money.
Got it.
And he's like, the business is booming. And he's like, I don't want to be your partner. I don't need your help. I'm going to keep your $20,000 though.
Got it.
This business actually is what helped him fund and create Scientology. So like full circle.
I'm so angry about this. And like you said, the disgusting Hubbard, he is nothing but that. And I don't know.
Yeah, but even get this. So he didn't only sleep with his wife. Sarah ended up leaving Jack and marrying Hubbard.
Oh,
so like a
God.
total asshole.
You know what? It just clicked. I knew this story from watching the Remedies documentary.
Oh.
That's where she meant. This is where it's all coming back to me now. This connection. That's what it was. And because she has mentioned Jack Parsons several times in her interviews with people.
Okay, makes sense. Because he's kind of like...
Now I'm following.
What inspired him. He gave him the money, not really meaning to give him the money to fund his own religion, but that's what happened.
Oh, fuck. And that religion has caused so much damage and trauma, as we know.
But I'm going to move on. This is another snippet from the New York Times, another great quote. Quote, Parsons showed Hubbard a way, a kind of format for forming a religion, said Pendle. Quote, Crowley came up with this kind of structure of a mystical society, a hierarchy where you move your way up, and each time you move up a level, you find out more, but you have to pay up to move, or you pay to move up to these levels. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like Scientology's whole structure is based on this cult that Parson was a part
100%,
of.
100%. Because it's all about shelling out money and money and money and money. Mm-hmm. Wow.
But let's get back to Wackadoo Parson.
Wackadoo.
He proceeded to manifest his soulmate by performing some sexual magic. I don't know if I kind of elaborated on that part. I don't really know if he was like...
Can I do it?
He was like banging other ladies like, oh, I hope my soulmate comes. But when they said he manifested, I kind of imagined that because that's like what he would do. He would perform sex magic. Okay, that part I a little elaborated on.
Right. A little
Amy Holt touch on that part.
A little bit.
As he, like he said, the powers of attraction, he manifested his wife. And he ended up marrying a celebrity named Marjorie Cameron. She was a celebrity at the time, and she absolutely worshipped him.
Like a model or something? Actress?
I think she was an actress.
Okay.
I didn't look too much into it. He found another job shortly after he was like screwed over by Ron at Hughes Aircraft Company. And while he was working there, he started to take home some of their top secret documents. The government found out about this, and this led them to believe that he had communist ties, and he was supplying the USSR with information to build their own rockets. And this was right before the Cold War. Parson found out about this, that the FBI was like following him, thinking he had ties to the USSR. So he went to the FBI personally himself, and he told them he was taking the documents home because he wanted to find a job in Israel. He was wanting to move. Then the FBI was like, well,
why the fuck do you want to be in Israel?
Yeah, he must be an Israeli spy. And the aircraft company, after talking to the FBI, quickly fired him. So he lost another job.
Got it.
After these incidents, he was blacklisted basically and was never able to get an aeronautical job again. The FBI has been following Parson ever since he joined the OTO group. And they were just kind of waiting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because they saw this group as, like, being really dangerous, demonic. And they were kind of waiting for Jack just to slip up. Because they couldn't really pin him for anything. Mm-hmm. So the moment they were like, oh, he's doing this, taking home these top secret documents, now we can get him.
Got it.
But they had been following him for years and years.
Right, yeah. But the act was something they could use in court.
Yeah, legally use. At this point, you can imagine he's lost all these jobs. He's kind of like, what the hell do I do with myself? I have this huge mansion. He decides to rent out the rooms for extra income because he can't find a job. And he would occasionally work as an explosive consultant on films made in Hollywood, but these were like few and far between. Okay. He was desperate really for any job, and he ended up working at a gas station at nighttime.
Okay. Wow, that's, I mean, what a fall from grace, speaking of the devil. Mm-hmm. Like, no pun intended. But, like, you know, from this wealth of his early life on through it, he built to working at a gas station, which, P.S., no shame, that's what your job is. You got a career, good for you, but, like, that'd be tough. That'd be a tough thing for anyone's ego. Yeah, definitely. I agree. And, like, he was, like, at the time, obviously very wealthy because he was getting a lot of money from the government and all these companies. In 1952, so remember, he occasionally works as an explosive consultant, right? Okay.
A director reached out to him, and I couldn't tell you what movie, but they were needing explosives done for a movie, and they were working on a really tight deadline, and they called him in to work on it. One of the people on set famously joked, quote, "Be careful or you'll blow us all up," end quote. Famous last words. 1 hour later,
I just got body chills.
The lab exploded. He was found alive with half of his face missing pretty much from the explosion. They rushed him to a hospital where he later on was announced dead at the age of 37. Now, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns here, too.
I was going to say, you mentioned something about him maybe not really dying.
Well, he did, but...
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories about his death. So they announced that it was an accidental death. Because Parson had so many years of experience of mixing bombs and explosives, it sounded like he made a very rookie mistake from, like, people were, like, examining the case.
Sure.
And some people believe that he might have killed himself intentionally because he was so depressed, right?
Oh,
like, he's out of his job, he doesn't have any money, he's not doing the thing he dreamed of his whole life, like working on rockets. Mm-hmm. The argument against this, though, is if he truly wanted to end his life, he would have known how to make a bomb that would have killed him right away. He wouldn't have let him had a miserable, sufferable death. Like, he wouldn't have been at the hospital suffering for hours like he was.
Yeah, right. And, like, why would anyone want to be, hurt and be disfigured? And, like, I can tell you from actually being on fire in my personal life, that's another story if I didn't already
You've told us, yeah.
Did I tell it? Yeah. That nobody wants that, trust me. No.
But that's one argument. It's like, well, he knew how to make bombs. If he was going to blow himself up, he would have done it in a way he would have blown up immediately and not been in pain.
Yeah, like, that's curious of, like, why he wouldn't. Yeah, that's...
And another conspiracy theory is that the government assassinated him by mixing up the chemicals so the bomb would detonate and he would die. The timing...
Wouldn't put it past them.
The timing of his death was, like, so convenient for them and perfect timing that he would die at this time. Because he died right before the Cold War, and he knew a lot of the top secrets from working for the government about their space program. Mm-hmm. And as you know, he had been showing signs of wanting to leave the country. Like when he went in to say he wanted to work in Israel. Like, they had been following him for years, and so they kind of been following this, and they had this, like, lead of, like, he's going to try to leave, right? Mm-hmm. And the government knew Parson, like the genius he was capable of building a stronger and better rocket than the U.S. government was capable of. So they're like, he can't take his knowledge and go to the USSR. They're going to have the upper hand against us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. Cold War drama.
Another reason for motivation for the government is that Jack was known for crediting his ability to create a rocket because of his occult group. And the government didn't want this to get out. They were embarrassed that someone like Jack was part of their program, and they were worried it would ruin the credibility of the space rocket program. They're trying to raise the cost of taxes to fund the space program. And they knew if society found out that a Satanist sex cult member was the leader of the program, that would never fly.
No.
Like, hell no.
You know what this is called? Government Relations 101. Public Relations 101, by the way.
These are all conspiracy theories, though. We don't know.
But if indeed they did do this campaign, it would be classified as a government
but
campaign.
I mean, it is fascinating. But when he did pass away, they did name a crater after Jack Parsons. But they found a crater which is supposed to be on the dark side of the moon where no one visits. Which in my mind is a perfect summary of how they felt about their relationship with him. Like, obviously, he's the reason they're there, but they didn't want society to know. So they did honor him, but in a sly way because they didn't want word to get out. In 2005, George Pendle wrote a biography about Jack Parsons, and it was called The Strange Angel. So he is nicknamed that if you look him up a little bit.
A Strange Angel. Interesting. Okay.
In 2018, CBS created a TV series also called The Strange Angel based on his biography, which I've never heard of.
Have you ever watched it?
Never heard of it. Knew nothing about this.
No. I'm interested, though.
But that is my story of the Rocket Devil Man.
Nicely done. Holy shit, that was...
I told you, it was a wild one.
Absolutely fascinating.
It was like Scientology, it's got rockets, it's got explosions, it's got sex, magic, Satan, money.
Thing.
Yeah,
I was like... Grace, the whole hero's journey, you know?
Yeah.
Like, wow. Holy shit. And like the connection to Scientology, like, it all makes sense.
And the Suicide Squad, I was like, what? Yeah.
Really good job. I'm going to look up this show and honestly, even maybe that book. Strange Angel, huh? Okay, well first, before I start, I just need to paint the picture since we are not on video yet. We are in a dark room with a candle and there are Christmas lights coming through the window. So that part's a little cheery, thank God, but
yeah, I made it dark and spooky because we ran off for a bathroom break before we dive into Krista's story. So I was like, gotta get into the mood for this, for Satan.
I came back and it was all dark and she goes, is it too dark? I'm like, kind of, but I kind of like it. I do.
I was just like, it's like we got our candle, like it's our fire, like a bonfire. Instead of ghost stories, we're telling like Satan stories.
Yeah,
I like it.
Why not?
That's what we do here at Bewitched Banter.
This is what we do. Our podlot's dark today, and yeah, having a good time with the devil. No, that was not an invitation. Hell to the no.
Oh, do you think the devil listens? Would he give us a good review?
I hope so of my story, but he's probably like, no, man, you didn't make me hot enough. Or like, you know what I mean? He see him as a narcissist. Again, it's a devil made me do it story. Which I've got so much to talk about. I'm so excited. I will be covering the infamous 1981 case that occurred in, of course, you guessed it, Connecticut.
You love Connecticut and your stories.
This happened I did not know anything about this until I looked it up and I was like, holy shit. I got an anecdote about my parents living in this exact town where this happened at this exact time. So
I think I saw something about Connecticut devil and I was like, I'll leave that to Krista.
Oh, that's a different story. There's a New Jersey devil too, which is a cryptid.
What about the Georgia? The devil went down to Georgia.
I don't know nothing about the South. You know, I'm a Yankee, but... Okay, so, happened in Connecticut. It's a story of the murderer, Arnie Johnson.
Martyr?
Murder. Not martyr. No,
murder kisses.
The killer, let's see. The killer, Arnie Johnson, who brutally stabbed his landlord, Alan Bono, to death.
Damn. What year?
1981.
Okay.
So, not only was this a real-life story that inspired the latest Conjuring movie, literally called The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Have you seen that one?
No, it came out in June of this year.
Okay, me either.
But now, after watching the trailer, I kind of want to. It's on HBO Max now, I think. So not only was this a real-life story that inspired the latest Conjuring movie called The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, but it was also the very first recorded murder in Brookfield, Connecticut's 193-year history.
Wow.
And it was the very first case in the United States to use possession or quote-unquote not guilty by virtue of demonic possession. Even me, I was like, that's a little bit of a fucking stretch. You know, whether or not demonic possessions happen or not, I don't even know about that yet, but like,
I hope you wouldn't know about it, because that probably means it happened to you.
Thank God it has not. But I don't believe that, like, a human, if you murder someone, you murder someone, right? You can't just fucking blame that on a holy ghost or devil.
It's really convenient.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to cover the movie itself because we ain't got time for that, but it did come out in June, like I said, and a brief synopsis.
And they don't need us promoting them. They have their own team.
But just so people know, like, the general story.
Yeah, because I don't know the general story.
This is from Google Reviews. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren are also in this story, P.S., take on one of the most sensational cases of their careers after a cop stumbles upon a dazed and bloodied young man walking down the road. Accused of murder, the suspect claims demonic possession as a defense, forcing the Warrens to a supernatural inquiry unlike anything they've ever seen before. End quote.
Kind of surprised that no one's ever used that excuse before. Or is it the first time that the court allowed them to use that excuse?
Yeah, I mean, what I read, I understood that no one used it before, but you might be right, that it was like the first time it was ever let into court.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people will be like, oh, the devil made me do it.
And there are cases, which I'll get into, that were in Europe that it used, and Johnson, or Arnie Johnson's attorney, actually used those cases in England to bolster his case for this.
And Arnie is the killer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So, again, I don't have time to get into Ed or Lorraine Warren's background today, but essentially they were paranormal investigators and demonologists from Monroe, Connecticut. They were a husband and wife team who led exorcisms. They gained most of their notoriety from the Amityville horror.
So they're real people.
They are real people.
But they're in the movies,
and
too.
They were in the movie because, the Conjuring's all about them. Obviously, they were real people, but they were actually involved in Arnie Johnson's case in real life. While I was researching this, I was like, okay, 1981, Brookfield. Hold up. My parents lived in Brookfield at that time. My sister was actually born there.
Is it close to Danbury?
Mm-hmm, it's a town over, another town over. As we know, New England's really tiny, so everything's like right next door, right? Mm-hmm. Unlike Arizona, where everything's spread out. But so I was like, Dad, have you ever heard of this? And he goes, I didn't mention any of the details, but he's like, yeah, you mean like the case with the dog kennel? And I'll get into those details in just a moment. But I was like, holy shit, you know it? And like, P.S., holy shit, you guys lived right there at the time. And he's like, yeah. They worked and lived in this dog kennel. It was just like 3 miles down the road from the house that they lived in. And at that time, when this trial was happening.
What do you mean the dog kennel?
So I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But Arnie, the killer, and his fiance at the time were living in an apartment above a dog kennel where she worked.
Oh, okay, got you. You may sound like they were living in the dog kennel.
No, they weren't living in a kennel like dogs, but they, worked there, or she worked there, the fiance, and then they lived above this kennel.
Okay, got it. Because you're like, they were living in the kennel, and I was like, that's even more weird.
Weird, right? No, but my dad was like, oh my God, I remember that. And my mom had no recollection of it, but I think she was like super busy in her career at the time, but it was like just wild. I'm like, how? It just, you know what I mean? Just like the connections to it, the proximity is like, holy crap, that's kind of cool. And this is a little excerpt from People magazine from 1981. I thought it was so cool they actually had this story still. Mm-hmm. So it's from the People magazine archive. It's called In Connecticut, Murder Trial. Will demonic possession prove 9/10 of the law? And it's by Lynn Baranaski, written October 26, 1981. Quote, this will give you the scene of my home life. Okay. My home. Quote, Brookfield, a town of 13,000 in scenic southwestern Connecticut. It managed to reach its 193rd birthday without a recorded homicide. But the string snapped last February, on February 16th, shortly after 6 p.m. Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, a 19-year-old tree surgeon, which I think means he cuts down trees, approached his landlord, Alan Bono, 40. As Johnson's fiancée, Debbie Glassell, watched in uncomprehending horror, the young man repeatedly plunged a 5-inch pocket knife into Bono's chest. The victim died an hour later of multiple wounds. If the killing was shocking, so is Johnson's plea defense. When the state superior court convenes on October 28th in nearby Danbury, D-Block, Cheyenne plans to plead not guilty to the murder charge by virtue of the fact that the devil made him do it.
Devil made me do it.
Can you imagine, like, actually seriously entering that plea?
Well, let's rewind here. He did stab his landlord, and I don't think
no spoiler alert. He did not get off.
Yeah, but I'm not thinking you're mentally sound if you're in an argument with your landlord and your option is, I could argue with my landlord, or I could take a knife out and just end his life. It makes me think you're not very with it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that case. He should have went with the insanity plea. Oh, whatever.
Or we're going to hire lawyers and fight his landlord in court, whatever the issue was.
Yeah, they never really got into what the argument was, but...
Probably owed him money.
So you may be wondering why, one, again, Johnson would murder his landlord, and B, how the hell the devil even got into any of this, right? Like, wouldn't it just be my hypothesis that people are just shitty? Like, not the devil? Like, maybe Johnson was just really shitty, you know?
Probably mentally ill. Who knows?
But in this story, the devil actually didn't start by possessing Arnie Johnson. The possession allegedly took place and began with his fiancée, Debbie. Arnie Johnson, the murderer, his fiancee's name was Debbie Glatzel. And the possession apparently started with Debbie's little brother, who was 11-year-old David. And there's some stories about this. And
Are you saying possession?
Yep, demonic possession. So David, the little poor 11-year-old, claimed that he saw a spirit, who he called the old man. He claimed the man shoved him onto a waterbed, and then after that experience, David saw the old man repeatedly.
This is definitely the 80s.
Oh, right, with the waterbed.
You just definitely what's the word I'm looking for? Gave us a
time frame.
Or aged the story by saying waterbed. So I'm like, it's so hilarious to me if they think that was a great invention in the 80s.
It's so nasty. Ugh.
My sister had one and
she did?
Well, we lived in a rental for a little bit, like in elementary school while we were building our home. And there was a waterbed, and I thought it was so cool at the time, and I was so jealous. But how do married couples or any person share a waterbed? Because if you move the slightest, the whole bed is shaking.
It was all like Jell-O.
Yeah, I'm so like, gross. Who thought this was a great idea?
So after poor David's waterbed experience, though, he really got possessed, and the incidents got more violent and worse.
He got really possessed. He wasn't just slightly possessed. He got really possessed.
But actually, there's a scene in the trailer that shows this for the Conjuring movie, which I'll add to IG. But he spoke in creepy tongues and odd voices. He screamed horrific things and violently lashed out. It's also claimed that David had unexplainable scratches and bruises all over his body. So for all of this...
I wonder if he was just abused as a child.
That's what I would assert, frankly. But even more so, it continued to impact David. He began to miss classes. He gained about 60 pounds in a few months. And again, he's only 11 years old. So gaining 60 pounds over that... That's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He would spontaneously recite passages from the Bible or Milton's Paradise Lost, which I think is a play, if I'm not mistaken. Every night, a family member, these fits got so bad that every night a family member had to keep watch of him. They claimed to have seen, while they were on watch, essentially, see David go into these 30-minute rapid fits where he would violently sit up, kind of like,
damn.
Yeah. And so they had to watch him. And by this point, you kind of just touched on it. Where the fuck are David and Debbie's parents? And remember, Debbie's the older sister and fiance of Arnie.
Okay.
Well, to their credit, Judy and Carl Glatzel, their parents, did seek psychiatric care for David. This family physician cited that David's body was normal with but that he only had a minimal quote-unquote learning disability. Whatever that means. But to cope, Judy...
The mother, right?
Yep, Judy and Carl, the dad, and so their parents enrolled David in a private school. There's that private school again.
Yeah, these poor private school.
For disturbed children instead of, violent kids. And by this time, the house had become so unbearable. And by the way, Debbie and Arnie lived there with the whole family. Okay. Together.
Debbie's the sister of Dave. The Dave is who's possessed, and Arnie is the boyfriend?
The boyfriend, okay. Yep, of Debbie, the older sister.
Just making sure I'm following the story. Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of family tree shit, but it all connects. And I'll tell you why here shortly. So at that time, poor David shipped off to good old Casa by the Sea, like my ex-boyfriend. Yeah. And the house had become, the energy and just, the stress of it all became so unbearable for Debbie and Arnie that they moved out. Enter the kennel. Debbie got a job at the Brookfield Pet Motel. It was there. She and Arnie rented the apartment above the dog kennel.
Kind of where she worked.
Yep,
Okay.
by Alan Bono. Alan Bono's the landlord.
Okay.
Who was stabbed, ultimately. Debbie, being the concerned sister and quote-unquote good Catholic that she was, contacted a local Roman Catholic priest to help poor little David. So unfortunately, though, the priest was unable to rid the boy of these quote-unquote demons, and thereafter Debbie and David's mom, after the priest couldn't do anything, contacted the Warrens. And the Warrens had recently gained fame. You know, it was the height of the Satanic Panic, and they had, you know, book tours and all sorts of videos and news coverage around their exorcisms, including the Amityville horror house. So they were really famous.
When did the Amityville horror house happen, the story?
I think the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken. Mid to late 70s. And this is early 80s.
I know I watched the movie and I should know this, but if you summarize Amityville up in one sentence, is it just a haunted house?
It is claimed to be haunted, and several family massacres that happened there.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Which were blamed on demonic possessions.
It's ringing a bell now.
Yeah. Again, the Warrens recently gained fame from Amityville, and during one of their very intensive sessions with David, it's alleged that Arnie Johnson, Debbie's fiance and the murderer, he was there helping to support, you know, the family and his basically little brother, right? If, you know, I consider my family members a loved one, a brother, right? He was pleading with the demons apparently to take possession over him instead of David.
Oh, okay.
To like take me instead kind of thing.
Makes me think of like perfect movie scene.
Oh yeah, I don't know if they showed that in the trailer, but
I'm sure it's a movie scene.
I'm sure it's in there.
I feel like that's happened in several horror movies. The adults like, not them, me. Come at me, devil.
Mm-hmm.
Come at me.
Absolutely. I mean, wouldn't any good parent, no matter what you're saving them from, you would say, you know, take me instead kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
At least I hope.
It's not his kid, it's his
fiance's
brother.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So it's like his brother-in-law.
Yeah, but you know, I'm very familiar. So like anybody in my, you know what I mean? Like I consider Vince's brother and sister-in-law my brother and sister. Do you know what I mean? But that's just me. And it sounds like this family was similar, like very tight-knit.
Yeah.
There is rare footage though of both Debbie and Arnie that was used in a paranormal docuseries called A Haunting, in a segment called Where the Devils Dwell. In this, Debbie asserts that David and Arnie were not the first among the Glatzel family, their last name again, to become possessed, and the Warrens would eventually claim that David was inhabited by not just one demon, but 43.
Wow. That's a lot of demon up in there.
Mm-hmm. The Warrens even claimed that David made quote-unquote numerous references to the murder and stabbings. End quote.
Before it happened?
Mm-hmm. They maintain that they conducted, again, I don't know what this means, but they claim they conducted 3 lesser exorcisms, with one of them reportedly taking place at St. Joseph's Church in Brookfield, which my mom knew exactly where it was. It was bizarre. And actually, I went to St. Joseph's Church in Danbury, but different church. There were 4 priests in attendance from St. Joseph's of Brookfield that attended these quote-unquote exorcisms with the Warrens. However, Father Nicholas Greco of the Diocese of Bridgeport, while he did admit that David's possession was investigated by the Catholic Church, he still denies that any exorcism was ever performed or recorded in the Catholic Church.
But there's footage of it?
Not of the exorcism, but of the retelling of the story. Catholic Church admitted that there was an investigation, but 3 of the priests involved in the quote-unquote exorcisms would not comment, and therefore later transferred to other parishes. To me, that's like that's bad PR, right? Like, you don't... But that's the Catholic Church in a nutshell. They do something bad, they send the priest away.
So they tried to do the exorcism, it didn't work, so they went off to work at another church?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's what I'm reading into it. But, you know, the Catholic Church covers their shit up so well.
Yeah, they definitely do.
So later, in October, the Warrens called the Brookfield police and predicted the tragedy based on what David said, because he, quote-unquote, claimed to foresee it happening. Mm-hmm. Apparently, the demons really listened to Arnie's plea to use him as their vessel. 11 months later, after he did so, on February 16th, 1981, Debbie, who was 26, Arnie, who was 19, and their new landlord, Alan Bono, who was 40, we're all hanging out, just having lunch at their apartment, chilling, having, like, some drinks and...
Let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
Debbie's 26 and what's his name
Arnie's
is 19.
You know, I thought that was funny too.
Okay, that's a little creepy.
Isn't that weird?
I feel like at 19 and 26 you're on totally different wavelengths.
In women versus male, right? So she's already way more mature.
Yeah, but 19 you're like just graduated, you're a baby, and then like 26 you're starting to figure out like your professional life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was weird too.
Yeah, I think that's a little creepy.
And more so creepy that their landlord's 40. Just hanging out in their apartment, shooting the shit.
Oh, I can see that. I don't think that's creepy.
You don't?
You can be friends with an older person.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And I mean, if it's your landlord, you don't know if they stop by, be like, hey,
that's true.
This isn't working, and then you're just friendly, you start chatting.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think you're just reading into it.
Okay, maybe I am. But anyway, they're all chilling. I almost kind of envisioned like a Sunday fun day before that was a thing. Mm-hmm. Because Bono, apparently, the landlord, was drinking heavily, and also in attendance, or there in attendance, like it's mass or school. Arnie's it was quoted as saying young family members, and so I'm assuming that he had like cousins or nieces there, ages 9 to 15.
Okay.
So again, all just chilling and vibing on a Sunday afternoon. So at some point, Arnie and Bono started fighting, and it turned violent, obviously. And as the violence continued to ensue, Debbie was like, yeah, I gotta get these little girls the fuck out of here. It's just like that. She said it's just like that.
Is that what she said?
Yo, the fuck out of here, kids. But she, was trying to make an attempt to shield them from it and get them out of the apartment. And at that moment, that's when Arnie pulled out a 5-inch pocket knife and stabbed Bono 4 to 5 times in the chest. Yep. Bono was brought to the Danbury Hospital, which is where I was actually born. And sadly, Bono died a few hours later with fatal chest wounds from the stabbing.
Damn. Sunday scaries.
Oh, yeah. Talk about Sunday scaries. Yeah. Man, that's another level of Sunday scaries.
I know, I'm trying to make a joke of his death. That's really unfortunate. But yeah, that is definitely the Sunday scaries.
For fucking sure. I mean, for everybody involved, too. Imagine being one of those little girls witnessing this. Like...
Well, I thought they pulled the girls out before it happened.
I don't know if she did in time. I think that they might have been...
Wow.
Well, I hope she did. I don't know. That wasn't really clear, to be honest. But that's a lot. So I'm going to cut to the trial. And... this wild defense that the devil made Arnie do it. After the murder, Arnie was arrested 2 miles from the scene. He had then been held shortly after at the Bridgeport Correctional Center in lieu of a $125,000 bail. He's on bail, or no, he doesn't get out. He's being held, right? But for a very high bail. And I don't think this family's wealthy, so they're not paying $125K to get him out.
That's a lot of money.
Exactly. And he obviously did commit the murder, so, like,
Yeah, I could see the pool not being there to help him.
Not great. Arnie's attorney, Martin Minella, then, I'm using my puns now, then conjured up the quote-unquote possession plea. And he was so adamant that his client's stance, about his client's stance, that he even traveled to England to meet with lawyers who handled believe it or not, 2 possession defenses in Europe. This is a quote from the People magazine archive again, from Arnie's lawyer. Quote, "I'm going to show the guy isn't insane and that it's not delusion. The courts have dealt with the existence of God and they'll now be asked to deal with the existence of a demonic spirit."
Wow.
End quote. So dramatic. And believe it or not surprisingly rather, that quote was used in the movie. And of course, it's coming out of the mouth of Ed Warren, not the lawyer. But it's there.
I mean, it's a pretty good quote.
It was very dramatic. Well done.
It is kind of a good argument, though, because they do sometimes refer to God in court. What about the devil?
Well, and you have to swear on the Bible to even give your testimony, right? So that's what I said to my parents. I was like, wait a minute. Logically, right? If I'm using
that's total lawyer talk.
Scales,
like, hey,
okay, well, if you're using God, well, then you have to acknowledge the counterpart.
Yeah, right. That's a genius idea on the lawyer's part.
I thought so too.
They're shady, but they're smart.
Damn right. Like I said, Milena, the attorney, went for it, like fully committed. And the court listened, and he painted the picture that his client, Arnie Johnson, committed violence for which he could not be held responsible because of this possession.
So, you think it's different than the sanity plea?
Yeah, I think legally it is. I couldn't tell you how exactly, but...
I mean, that's an interesting idea, because I would just be curious, like, are you insane now because of the devil?
That's a good point. Like, how intertwined it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's like lawyer talk, which would probably go over our heads anyway.
For sure.
It'd be an interesting question or a question to ask a lawyer.
No, that is a really good question. Because you would think anyone hearing quote unquote voices, they use the insanity plea usually.
Yeah, that's why I was like wondering if they were trying to use it as a different plea or if that's part of the insanity plea.
From what I understood, this was its own thing, like not insanity at all. He was possessed, and that was it. Which is,
I mean, if this passed, everyone all of a sudden would start being like, I was possessed.
Right, and that's I don't think why it held up.
Yeah,
ultimately, but again, Milena, the attorney, knew it would be an uphill defense. Because demonic possession had never been used as a defense in the United States. And he did find those 2 cases in British courts. And he vowed to bring those experts to trial, which he did. And he used those cases because in Britain, they were used successfully within the past 10 years. So it was the precedent. So Dr. M.B. Schimmelman, he is or was, because this was in 1981, the assistant clinical professor of psychiatry at Yale, and again, that's in New Haven, not too far away, told People magazine that, quote, "We're all schizophrenics. With proper treatment, the delusion went away." So basically, this doctor is saying, to your point, we're all a little bit crazy. And with a little bit of psychiatric support.
I mean, I think there's definitely, if we're all crazy, there's definitely some different levels.
Sure.
The demon is not talking to me.
Are you sure? Can you hear him now?
He's like, order those Jersey mics again.
Listen. He told me today and I did.
It's like when the angel and the devil's on your shoulder, and I'm like, yep, I'm going to listen and get some Jersey mics.
I listened to that devil today for sure in that order. And then when a priest told People magazine that in regarding the demonic defense, this priest was named Father Thomas Lynch, Chancellor of, I believe, St. Joseph's Church. He said that, quote, 99.99% of the people who claim they are possessed are not. And that's, end quote, coming from a...
So 99.9?
Mm-hmm. No, 99.99%.
Yeah, he's probably just saying that because he can't say 100%. You know what I mean?
Well, but the fact that he's, a priest, I don't know. I feel like it's downplaying the argument that he's like, nope, we don't even do this. Like, get over it. It's a lie. It's like sensationalized, like exorcisms are anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
Ultimately, the people agreed with Father Thomas and Dr. Shillman, and they did not buy it, of course. They did not buy...
Thank God. Another pun.
Arnie Cheyenne Johnson was convicted and sentenced to 10 to 20 years of first-degree manslaughter on November 24th, 1981.
So he's still in probably prison today, or is he out now?
Girl, he out. So listen to this. The manslaughter sentence, by the way, means the jury believed that they obviously know he did kill Bono, but they believe he didn't intend to harm him, but not kill him. Okay. So he served less than 5 years.
Not surprised.
Yep. And he was released on parole after being a, quote, model prisoner at Connecticut Correctional Institute in Somers.
See, I can totally get behind, like, when there's drug charges and they let people go, but I think when you do a violent crime, you should actually, and you took someone's life, you really should pay your time. 5 years is nothing for killing someone.
I agree.
And then there's people sitting and rotting in prison because they sold a little bit of weed. That makes no sense.
It's systemic racism at its core, but, he's a white male, of course. Okay. So, of course. So he got off.
5 years is literally nothing, but
nothing
from
for
true
taking
crime,
another's life. Yeah.
I've learned most people, when it comes to murder and rape, don't really do their whole sentence.
Yeah,
time.
It's been, I think it's gotten a little better as far as sentencing for rapists, but still that there's a statute of limitations, I think, still. And again, not lawyers here, but yeah, just from all the shit we listen to, like you said, there needs to be some more rigorous.
I think for violent crime.
Yeah, agreed. Into anything that's violent. So you might be surprised though that Debbie and Arnie stuck it out through all of this.
Wow.
They married while he was still in prison on January 30th, 1985.
That must have been a really romantic marriage. Or wedding, I mean.
And they had 2 sons. And
hopefully he didn't pass it down in his genes to be possessed by the devil.
Oh God, I hope not.
It sounded like they were trying to say it was like a lineage.
Oh, lineage. Yeah, that's
lineage,
what the family,
lineage,
the Glatzel family was saying. That it was like a family curse.
Yeah, it sounded like they were trying to make it out to be a family curse.
Yeah, so Debbie's also quoted as saying, "Our love has only grown stronger. He was willing to sacrifice himself to save my brother." End quote. And if we have time, I would like to share just a quick listicle, 13 facts about the haunting true story behind The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Definitely. Let's do it.
The murder, number 1, the murder of Alan Bono was the first recorded murder in the history of Brookfield, Connecticut. Number 2, Arnie and Cheyenne Johnson's quote-unquote demon defense drew worldwide attention, which obviously you could imagine. And it was quoted in People magazine, New York Times, fucking everywhere. Number 3, the demon defense began with Ed and Lorraine Warren, which my speculation is they had to gain more fame and money from it. Number 4, the demon story began with a little boy and a waterbed, so that actually was factual. Number 5, the Warrens were determined that a horde of demons were to blame. Number 6, no formal exorcism was ever held, according to the Catholic Diocese or the Bishop of Bridgeport. Number 7, not everyone who knew Arnie Cheyenne Johnson blamed the devil. Number 8, the Warrens were reportedly eager to capitalize on Arnie and Cheyenne's story, or Arnie Cheyenne Johnson's story. No surprise there. Like I said, they were looking for their next big paycheck.
I believe that.
Shit, it came through this year in 2021 on this story. Number 9,
from the movie being made.
Well, they're both passed away now, Ed and Lorraine, but she passed away recently in like 2016. I have to.
I'm sure they made tons of money from all this stuff.
Oh yeah, but even like back in the day, all the press they got, lots of probably payment then too. Like you said. Number 9, there was a 1983 made-for-TV movie about Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, but it didn't use anyone else's real name, or anyone's real name. Oh, so my dad was right, because he mentioned, he's like, there was another movie. Number 10, Lorraine Warren was sued over alleged falsehoods in her book, The Devil in Connecticut. Shit, I want to read that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Totally up your alley.
You know it. Number 11, the Glatzel brothers lost their lawsuit, yet still won this battle. The Glatzel's lawsuit was dismissed. However, the brothers did succeed in getting the book taken out of print. Oh, okay. So it's a lawsuit probably with the Warrens. Yep. Okay. Number 12, the demon defense didn't save Arnie Cheyenne Johnson. And finally, number 13, Arnie Cheyenne Johnson and Debbie Glatzel stayed together. As I said. So that is the insane, wild story of...
Very cool.
That the devil made me do it, an actual defense plea that was used in my home state. Go figure. I do love Connecticut, to your point. I miss it very dearly, but left for a reason, and desert's my home now. So, but lots of crazy shit happened back home. Lots of crazy shit.
Totally makes sense with like the New England vibe, and I think like Hollywood loves monetize on that.
Oh yeah,
the creepy like. I mean, because that's probably our most, like, obviously, America's history compared to other countries doesn't go that far back. So that's kind of, like, our original history in that region.
Yeah. So lots of creepy shit coming out of hometowns and New England in general. But anyway, that's all I've got for this demonic possession case.
Awesome. I loved it. Very good. I think the stories were really fun this time.
I thought so too.
And I mean, yes, yours involved murder, but I wouldn't say it was too dark. Like, we have some really dark stories we've told in today.
Yeah, that's true.
I was, like, weirdly looking up some demon puns because that's kind of been the whole theme.
Oh my God, let me hear.
Okay, you want to hear some?
I do.
Why not? Why are demons fat? Because they hate exercising.
Oh, no.
How does a demon stay fit? He exercises. Did you hear about the demon who threw some shoes in the hellfire? He wanted to watch their souls burn.
Oh, no. Keep going. I love this. Hate this so much.
Anyway, if you have any good puns about the devil, send them our way, because obviously we are, I don't know, a glutton for some puns that has to do with Satan.
Punishment. Oh, no.
But that is our story portion. If you didn't get a chance, listen to our history. Krista did a great job. And if you do have a chance, I know we sound like a broken record, but we would greatly appreciate if you could leave us a review. Mm-hmm. It helps us out so much.
Do us a solid this holiday season.
Yes.
Give us holiday joy.
A little holiday cheer. It honestly makes our day.
It really does. So,
yeah, just one quick review, a sentence, anything. I mean, we appreciate it more than you know.
5 stars, no sentence. Just keep it coming.
Yeah.
But anyway, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Happy everything.
Happy holidays,
happy
whatever you celebrate. Happy always.
Yeah, so thank you again for listening. It means the world to us. Let us know your feedback. I know we keep saying it, but we would love to get an email from you. Thanks again. And what are we going to say?
Peace be witches.
Peace be witches. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Oh. Let's hope the devil don't come down your chimney. Thanks for listening. Please rate and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Check us out on Instagram or bewitchedbanter.com. Suggestions for the show? Email us at bewitchedbanter@gmail.com. Credits, music, Phantom Fun by Jonathan Boyle from premiumbeat.com. Podcast edited and produced by Krista Hins and Amy Holt.